Yeah. What's good, people? It's your boy Icarus Gray.
And it's your homeboy Wordplay TJ.
And this is the No Rhyme or Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all.
Ooh.
We're not rusty.
Not at all. We didn't have to do this as a second take.
That's fine. We cut it in the editing, you know. Shout out Garrett.
What up, Get?
Yeah, you're gonna make sure that it sounds crispy. I'm really disturbed right now because I can't hear myself.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, I might need to turn on monitoring, but at the same time, it's delayed, so I don't think that's a good idea.
Technical dudes. That's what we are, technical dudes.
Technical dudes. We are
back, man. Listen.
We can talk about that, but I feel like we should talk about that later. We're actually back. Just leave people in suspense. Why is this happening?
We're doing a thing.
Are these guys just doing it for the money?
The money is coming.
Are we doing?
We doing it for the bag. We back for the bag.
Pow, pow, pow.
Blow up noise. Oh, wait, matter of fact. Yeah.
Man, that's your sound effect.
I know. From Gray Area Podcast, which you guys can go check out as well, because I be podcasting all the time. Seems like now.
Coming in with the smooth crossover.
We're releasing, or you're getting this here episode on the 24th?
21st.
21st. So that'll be 2 days after a certain celebration that we'd like to discuss, because Black Power.
Oh, you tossed it into me?
Yeah, I'm definitely
It's your sound effects.
I meant to text you about that too. I was like, we need to get some sound effects.
Yeah, we gotta get our own sound effects. We'll get them eventually. Gosh, I have some in the back of my head, but we'll come back to that. So the title of this episode is what is Juneteenth? I didn't know whether or not I wanted to be so historical about it. But obviously, right, like the historical context kind of matters. And
got you.
You got me?
I got you. Listen.
Okay.
Juneteenth.
History, Gray?
Yo, that was the smoothest new nickname. History Gray. Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, and Emancipation Day, is a holiday celebrating the emancipation of those who had been enslaved in the United States. Originating in Galveston, Texas, it is now celebrated annually on June 19th throughout the United States. With increasing official recognition, it is commemorated on the anniversary date of June 19th, 1865, the announcement of General Order Number 3 by Union Army General Gordon Granger, proclaiming freedom from slavery in Texas.
Yo, so the backstory, right?
Yes, sir.
This is some 2.5 years after slavery was abolished and emancipation happened. And it took 2 years for the news it didn't take 2 years for the news to reach Texas, but the folks in Texas were like, we're not going to tell these folks. We're not going to tell these folks.
We liked them because we were actually free. The proclamation had been given 2 years prior.
Right.
But the June 19th is just the celebration of the fact that the last order of the folks that was getting unpaid overtime to work on fields, getting the notification that it was time to stop it.
Unpaid overtime?
Unpaid overtime.
That's what it's called. When you're freed and Wow. Oh my gosh.
Listen,
Yo, you
but
can't do that.
I mean, but the reason I even say that is because that's just the general thought process
Yeah.
behind that, in certain ways, because that's like what it was. Like so many people, even the 13th Amendment in and of itself, and the creating of the prison system in the middle of the 13th Amendment, we won't get into that. There's a documentary on Netflix, I believe, that you can go and watch about that.
13th.
But that's what it was, because people were upset that people weren't going to do their work for them and make them money.
Yeah.
Like literally that's the whole aspect of even the Civil War and other things in and of itself. Is, I think what's funny about that is like the perfect time capsule for conversations of today.
What is?
The Civil War and just that time period in general, and how the conversation is always economic or political.
Well, I mean,
Ever moral.
That's kind of, you're right. Like that's the brunt of all of our conversations.
Yeah.
At this current juncture. I don't know if I like it. Even social conversations, right? Like,
right.
And not just social, like friends, your your close family. It's like it leaks into marriage, even.
Whew, I was 3 seconds away from when you went friends from going. How many of us have them?
Friends.
Ones we can. Okay.
You're gonna get us taken off of YouTube.
Hey, under 30 seconds, we good. Under 30 seconds.
Well, I'm curious, right? The reason why I feel like I wanted to bring this up, and I'm adjusting my lights and doing everything, so don't mind me, audience.
Also, don't even worry about like our Zoom presence, people, because things will be a change. That's all I get to say.
Maybe. For now.
Maybe.
What was I gonna say? Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I lost my train of thought. Why don't we know? Mm-hmm. Why don't more people know about Juneteenth? And that was a singular question that I've been asking myself for a long time. Why don't we know? Why don't more people get told about the story of Juneteenth? So I'm curious if you have any speculations.
Well, there's no big money in it for them, because it is specific to us. And while normally they can profit off that and marginalize it in all the ways that they do, they'd much rather use the more celebrated all of us July 4th.
Yeah.
That's literally
in the middle of your statement comes a fear, right? And that fear is what happens when they do figure out they can commercialize Juneteenth and it's in your Target stores, in your Walmarts, in all these other places, and people that like looked over Juneteenth.
Yep.
Or folks that like don't really have a pure connection to Juneteenth. It basically like what happens when they start making it a part of everyday commerce, but that money doesn't go back to Black folks, the folks that suffered in the midst of the becoming of this holiday.
Well, then we have the Martin Luther King Day dilemma. You'll just have people, and I mean, it's a lot easier than the Martin Luther King Day dilemma, which is there are people who celebrate it as a national recognized holiday, but there are states and or counties that do not celebrate it. Some celebrate Robert E. Lee Day, and I do believe that has stopped recently, but don't quote me. That's
I'm
just
quoting you. I'm quoting you right now. Robert E. Lee Day has stopped Icarus Gray.
I think so.
Garrett, can you put that across the screen?
Twinkle, twinkle, twinkle.
Yo.
Put some twinkly sounds behind it,
Not the twinkly sound. Dang it.
It's too late.
Lucky I can't speak on my soundboard that quick. But I think that'll be what happens. It'll be easier for them because, July 4th is something that we celebrate in droves already. Mm-hmm. Juneteenth in and of itself is one of those, or at least how it's proclaimed to be propaganda wise, is one of those super woke holidays, even though it is the true holiday for us, because July 4th ain't our holiday. And I know in a lot of the other instances of holidays that we'll talk about, Halloween and Christmas, those are built to make money. The 4th is a historical representation of some people, not all people, but they commercialized it to be all people. So, it's one of those things where the logo of the celebration is stronger than the facts. And you already know, working in the school system, how hard people are going to try and change history or omit actual facts in lieu of trying to be more comforting. I don't know. I don't know what the real reason is outside of, just privilege. There's
a lot of folks making legislation right now blocking critical race theory. And critical race theory isn't like some, very specific topic that people go to school for or some class that you enroll in. It's just the broad idea that we actually explore racial differences and cultural differences and the history of racial differences in this country, in the world, and so forth. So just kind of theorizing that there is implications to your race, and there has been a history of those implications. So that's the critical race theory that many states are trying to block right now.
They are literally trying to just block conversation, like historical conversation, in a simplified version of it's not, like you said, it's not something that you're going out and getting a degree about. It's basically, and you and I have had this conversation before, it's basically when we go to another state and realize that people have no idea about the Little Rock Nine. Mm-hmm. And that's an odd thing, because that should be a standard the same way that all integration should be, a standard in terms of what it is we're talking about. But what is trying to kind of be pushed is just this thought that if we don't talk about it, it won't exist. And the most problematic thing of all is to try that. As a matter of fact, as two married men, try that in a marriage. The unsaid, when you're feeling a certain type of way, on one end, does it just go away, or does it just somehow fester and boil over? And then you're like, how did I end up here?
You get there it's like a week later and you're just in a room by yourself, nah.
Going Super Saiyan.
I ain't going, my dude. I ain't going. Yeah.
You told me I was like my daddy. I didn't like that, it's a whole thing. Speaking of, what's funny? Just a random aside, because this is no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
Our first bonus episode was so trash.
Yeah, it was about dad stuff.
All dad stuff.
And it was way complaining.
And it never, that was when, because we were gonna be on that first wave of people to do podcasting and Patreon and extra episodes and everything together. Like we would have been the wave had we not with that episode, but we would have been the wave. But like
I think about dad stuff, and ultimately, like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but like when I think about dad stuff, there are things that dads do that is just, completely unfavorable when it comes to family dynamics. But there is usually two sides to the story. And I'm learning as time goes on, and my experience through marriage, not saying that people don't do horrible things in marriage. It's saying that sometimes it's like way more gray than what you put it in.
Some gray area there. Go and check out Gray Area Anime. Anyway, I'm gonna stuff that in as many pause. Oh, sorry, we don't do that anymore.
Well, we may. We may do a commercial break, but that's production stuff.
I forgot about that. Anyway, but yeah, it's like we're just here to celebrate. It's just here to celebrate actual freedom. You want to give a shout out for it because the thing that we have always done and will continue to do with this podcast is highlight the change and the things that we want out of this world, because we still, as cynical as it can get sometimes, we're still optimistic about the change. And we do understand that while we might not be the key, we'll be the builders of that key, if nothing else.
My lights are way too bright right now.
Bright lights.
Better.
Because we can use that because that's a good song. Because I almost sang the other song about, flashing and of the lights.
So maybe let's move on to the next thing.
Indeed. And this is what I'm just going to geek out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, ladies, you're not going to like this. No, I was kidding.
So E3 is currently going on, and we normally have little small discussions about it. There's a couple big announcements that I'll just touch on real quick. Xbox did purchase Bethesda, or Microsoft purchased Bethesda. Bethesda is the company that brought you such games as Fallout, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, those things.
I know all those names. And I have none of those experiences.
This is true. I did try to get you on. I was going to get you on Skyrim or Fallout. One of the two.
Yeah. But they bought Bethesda.
They bought Bethesda. They're doing a lot of exclusive games. There's going to be like basically a Skyrim for space called Starfield, which is going to be an Xbox exclusive.
We got to get some sound effects.
We're working on it. Man,
we got to stop doing our own sound effects.
Like, Garrett, these are the clips. Just make fun of us in this part.
He's going to do it.
I know. And now I'm a part of it. But so they're doing all of that, which was really, really cool with their stuff. Nintendo did their direct today, doing a little bit of information for Legend of Zelda. Because this year is the 30th.
Get a copyright strike.
Not on the first episode.
We could.
Could we?
I don't know. Production talk. Let's keep going.
Okay. 35th anniversary of Zelda is this year. So it's technically last year was the year of Mario. It was 35 years Mario. This year is 35 years of Zelda. Also 30 years of Metroid or something like that. I forget. It's been a long time. We're old. Or 20 years.
I like the idea of Zelda though.
Oh man. Breath of the Wild 2 is coming 2022.
Really? I have to get a Switch one day.
You do. What's funny about this is we got an announcement that this game was in development 2 years ago.
Huh?
Yep.
What?
Yeah. because Breath of the Wild has been out since the Wii U.
So basically, they kept it a secret.
Kind of. I mean, we always kind of know the life cycles of these games are, once one comes out, they're already in development for the next one. And with Zelda games, they typically use the engine that they create their game with for at least 2 games, i.e. Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are under the same engine kind of thing.
You say Ocarina?
Did I? Probably did.
That sound. I think you said Ocarina.
Ocarina.
Okra.
Ocarina. Okra.
Oh man, I could just see the comment section right now. Ocarina.
Ocarina. We're gonna call it the Ocarina. But E3 is going on right now, and what's amazing about that is, of course, it's the first time that people have been outside. And I'm sure it's not like a full capacity event in the same way that it has been, but at least the big players are there. Sony has not done their.
That's funny when you say people going outside, but they're gamers.
Man, we go outside. We's outside. But big news. I don't even know if I told you this, but this is not E3 related, but gaming related. In the sense that Pokemon is getting like an open world-ish kind of game.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Pokemon Arceus. And you know how many into they get about these Pokemon games. So hopefully I'll pump him up to get this Switch. And they're doing a Diamond and Pearl remake. So me and TJ will probably get a chance to play another game that we've never played, because by that point we was into women or something. I don't know what we played. It was music. It
did kind of correlate to like when I started having girlfriends. Then it was just like, man,
I don't gotta catch them all. I just gotta catch this one.
Right.
But yeah, so it's just been a really good year. I'm really excited. It's not as like thrilling as it was the last time that we were talking about it. Yeah. Just because I think around that time that was like my resurgence into gaming, but it's just kind of cool to keep up with all this stuff and kind of see. It's really now just about what game do I want? Because the way I would watch it then would be, I remember we talk about it and I was like, man, I really want this system or blah, blah, blah. We got all of them now. So it's more of a, what game do I want to play? What experience do I want to play? What do I really want to share with people? And because of our last year just being in Zoom hiatus, the game creators are thinking about this. Like the game creators had a whole year where they had to like stop production, where they couldn't work on these games, where they weren't really able to take advantage of the new systems that were coming out. Like we literally got new systems in the middle of a pandemic. Like that's a first to be in a situation where, supply and demand is such where people still don't have PS5s or Xbox Series X's. You can't just go down to Toys R Us, which is gone now, and get you one, or Best Buy or Walmart. You got to know somebody that knows somebody. You got to get in there early, and you got to you're dealing with third party high marketed costs. Like these,
but I think they dropped them because of stimmy checks, right?
Yeah, pretty much, probably. But they dropped them in low demand, and now they're letting, like Sony and Xbox are letting, third parties handle their stuff. Whereas, like I said, the system is $599, but if you look online on Walmart or whoever, they selling them for like $1,100, and it's like, no, I'm not going. Like,
why would you?
Like, there's no point. But people are, because people are just pushing out. Well, I'm like, bro, I will wait until Jesus come back and miss it. If that's the game we got to play out here, is like the scalping prices.
My son, handle thy controller.
Man, we gotta cut that. I need that as sound. I need that as sound for when I want to talk gaming stuff. I just need to be able to hit a button and that son has to be the controller. Oh, but that's E3.
Are you ready for your ass whooping?
Yo, you thought you could play 2K, my son. Prepare to get 30'd. Or dub, excuse me.
I was about to say,
I've been watching
to be crucified.
Yo. Now you can't say nothing about
Could you imagine?
Unpaid overtime. You about to get crucified. Yo.
Could you imagine Jesus like, let's get crucified?
Jesus Christ.
And you just sitting there like, it was like,
it's like, wait,
look, I'm fine. As you can see, I made it. Like I can't joke about it. Man, I didn't know you were into that kind of humor, Jesus. But yeah, E3 was a great, is great currently, still going on. A lot of fun stuff. I got new games that I'm interested in playing, and I'm hyped.
Word.
So
there's that jam.
Ooh. Now, you recently put out a post, which I had just been listening to jam, just listening and vibing and rocking along with it. You put out like the genius caption where I was like, oh, I get it. And like the song suddenly opened in my head because even though I knew there was a metaphor there, I had picked up the metaphor. And being like,
well, obviously, I should go find the caption, right? Like,
yeah, I'm gonna meander while you do that. So it was a huge thing for me to just kind of see this, the way that your positivity is something that is needed, much needed in the music realm. Something that I think that a lot of people will just appreciate, especially with this song. It's just something that you should be out here listening to, bumping in your cars, because it's about you. It's about you, I say. It's about you. In the caption.
Yeah. So in the post I write, the idea is what's for you is for you. That's your jam. Nobody else's. Embrace that, live that, and make sure you tell the world, that's my jam.
You're the jam.
Right.
Like you the number one hit. You are, there's nothing new under the sun except one special you, and that's your jam. You gotta be your favorite song. And I love that about jam because I was already loving the song. And then it was just like, oh snap. Yeah, it is. And it just jumped to a whole nother level because you do it in such a smooth way that it's like, oh, it's deeper because it's just the vibe already. And then it's like you realize that you're the vibe. So it's like it's meta. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
It is definitely hard for me to talk about this. And the reason why it's hard for me to talk about this is because I'm not here to big up myself. You know what I mean? That's just
really.
I'm not.
You should, because you're great, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do it. It's fine. I mean, that's my job as I am my brother's keeper. True indeed. But it's kind of like one of those things, especially given the greats that we've lost music wise, DMX and so on and so forth. You want to give people their roses while they're here. And like having those kind of giving people that kind of equipment, giving people those kind of tools for building themselves. It's people doing it, but I don't think as many people doing it on your level at all. And people will realize that. People need to realize that. People just need to get on board and be your jam. Like no matter what it is you're doing, you getting up, you going to work. This is my jam. You know, talking with my friends, podcasting is my jam. I know I'm good at it. I know I get in my bag. the same way that everybody else gets in their bag, and that's why we do this music for the underdogs. It's in the title.
So I think the whole idea is that you got to embrace yourself, right? And bear in mind, like while I'm writing, I'm not thinking about this. After the fact, I'm searching for what did I mean by this, you know, and where did this come from, right? Because even if I'm writing the most, like, let's just say I wrote "Get Low" by Lil Jon, you know.
Yeah.
Let's just say I wrote that, right?
All right, I'm with you.
Even if it's that type of song, I'm still going back and like, I'm still going back and and asking myself, what energy brought this about?
That's a good. I mean, like, and that energy could have been. I mean, we obviously get it with strip clubs, but like, what in a strip club, if you're writing that song, is what brought that about? Is it like I wanted to create an atmosphere that when I'm eating my chicken wings, that Young Delicious up here doesn't feel like, you know, like she could just get her you know, her lap dance on, and my wings taste even better.
Right.
You know, and
sometimes it's that simple, right? Like, how does this come across? And then I tie it to the marketing, and then I tie it to the, you know, the advertising and things of that nature. And so it's a really, I don't know, an eye-opening sort of situation to be listening to the record and say, oh, that's what I meant by that. Because it's not always like me just purposefully sitting down here and like, I don't know, I'm writing whatever comes out of me.
Well, it's an out of body experience, and
sure,
anything that we've ever written is an out of body experience. It's not until the song is finished, because it's kind of like I'm Clay, and when we do a song, and we're working on a lot of different things in that regard, but when we're working on a song, you've seen it. Like, so you'll start out, you're playing something because you're trying to make a beat. And then, you know, I start doing my rap part of it, and I'm not thinking about where I'm going. I'm just thinking about what's coming to me. And then you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to add this. And then that molds and changes the direction of how I'm writing. And then you add something else. And then, like, when we hit something, you like, that's it. And that's still just a out of body experience pre-phase, because that's not even the completed song, like you said, because it's not until after you finished everything, stood back, looked at it, and been able to separate yourself from it, or actually just look at what you did when you were out of your body and see, like, oh, that's what I was responding to. That's what I was drawn to. That's the situation that caused this. You know, that's why this line goes a little harder. That's why this line is a little bit better, because it means more. Because I was going through this, and this was like my body telling me this is what was coming. And it's one of those euphoric experiences that I think creatives, no matter what it is you're creating, will just kind of understand.
So when I think about it, what you just said, it's more like, not even more like, but just like, my thought process is, when it comes to an album, right? I feel like in a lot of ways, and when I say me, I mean like On the Map, our artists, our movements, we've been doing it backwards in some cases. Because we will create the thing, and then we'll create the marketing idea within the same time frame of the thing.
Right.
We don't make it, sit with it, and then put it out afterwards. this song has been like 6 or 7 months in the making, if not longer.
I want to say a little bit longer.
Yeah. So maybe like 9 months.
Because the beat, I remember its inception in the sense that it was something that I think that I was listening to initially that you had sent in like one of our packs. But that was during like the time where we were trying to like get that pack out, get something kind of quick out, and drug my feet. And then he was like, yeah. Heard it, and then you cooked up something amazing, and you had the chorus for a while. I know, because I think maybe one iteration was the chorus would have been something that we were trying to do.
Yeah, I sent the reference out.
Yeah, and then you just started building from there, and like it became so many different things to get to like here, and it's like it's one of those slow cooks that like the flavoring is just perfect.
Yo, I did 12 mixes.
Yeah, and I heard at least majority of them.
Yeah, like
and some you probably did and kept to yourself, but you sent a lot of mix, and that was like funny because and we have an episode. I don't know if it should be one of the cataloged episodes, because I think it was one of the last ones that we did where we talked about the fact that you can't get into the creative space where you get afraid to put something out because you'll continuously keep tweaking. But every time he would tweak, man, listen, it was never a miss.
Yeah, this joint is I'm trying to get it dialed in. That I normally never do that many mixes. 12, that's like I've never done that many.
Your max is about 4 or 5.
Yeah. So usually about 4 or 5, I start. Okay, I know what I'm hearing. I know what's wrong. But this one, I think I did so many. Number one, because a different producer made it, so I didn't have hands on the structure of the beat, and then the other part was I had to kind of mix around the sonics that he laid out, and then so I'm learning more in the process. And so because I'm learning more in the process, that means I'm making more changes and more iterations, and those minute changes. If some of those mixes are like exactly the same, they're just like 2 dB difference. You know what I mean? Or something like that.
So question, as an artist like who does not do a lot in the production currently, how difficult is that for you when like somebody comes in with like a beat for one of us and we don't have access to that stuff, to like the stems or things of that nature?
It's frustrating. I had the stems for this one. That was fine. But like, shout out to Turner. He's out of Belarus, but brand new producer, kind of making his move on the web. But like he sent me it, but at the same time, because he's a newer producer, like some of the sounds are too high. Like the bass, like I spent weeks trying to like dial the bass in where like it's present enough, but it's not missing. It's present enough, but it's not overwhelming certain frequencies. It's not like crunching your speakers, you know what I mean? And so that just comes with time. And so I don't like working with producers that don't have that type of stuff ready. If you don't know what the stems are, then I'm probably going to keep it moving, because I gotta have a little bit of control over the mix. And because I need control over the mix simply because I'm painting with the instruments too. Right. I'm painting while I'm like recording. And so I need to be able to drop things out or put things in, or, you know what I mean? Play the keys like I did on Jam. Like I need to be able to make those adjustments.
I've also kind of never understood, and again, this is from the artist perspective, what happens like when producers to beat makers, because there's a difference. And I think that certain beat makers, especially when they're new, they feel like when a producer needs the stem that they've messed up and that, the beat isn't good or something. And there's like this offense that comes with that. Like, how do we kind of, I don't know, sidestep, work around, work together? Because it's not that. Like I said, it's building a foundation. And if like the beat were perfect as is, then like you should have probably produced and rapped on it yourself.
Well, I can't be mad at him because all artists are precious about their work.
True.
And that's incredibly difficult to let go of. And I don't encourage any artist to actually let go of how precious you are to your work, because that's a part of the process of it coming out. So like if you're so precious that it never comes out, cool. That's that story. That's how it was supposed to work out. And then you go make something else and it blows up, that story works. Or if you stop being precious during like one moment and you're making some songs and then that's the hit, that moment you can then tell that story, right? Like you're like, well, I usually wouldn't fuck with something like this, and now I'm doing it. So that's that. I think that's the concern is like folks being a little precious with it, but then there is a difference between the producer and the beat maker. Hands down, I'm a producer. I'm also a beat maker, but hands down, I'm a producer, because from start to finish, I'm tailoring lyrics, I'm tailoring cadences, I'm tailoring the sounds within the mix. I'm vocal producing, right? Like just figuring out how to perform things better within the mix, and it's all internal and it's external too when I work with other artists. And then
you're an amazing orchestrator. That's something that I will always champion you for, because I know what Brainstorm started out as in my mind.
Yeah.
And there was a completely different, like there was a beat that I had found, because again, I'm trying to get more into the creation aspect of each part of it. It's just, I really be in my bag for trying to write the best writing that I can do. So I remember, bringing a beat to you and being like, I can't like recreate a beat. Like that's not how this works.
Yeah. At that time, it was incredibly difficult for me to even exercise that skill. And it's still challenging
and we were like,
today, but it's a little bit easier.
The evolution of what Brainstorm was to what it ended up being in terms of the way like you started to make your own beat. Then the second thing you did, which made the song even better, is you took this verse that I had been writing for the longest time and you were like, make that your third verse. I was like, wait, what? Make that your third verse. I'm like, what? How? Make that your third verse. Okay. And
you're making me sound like I just Ike Turner out here. Like,
you did for that one, because I was like, but make that your third verse. And I was like, okay. And the craziest thing about it is my favorite verse is the first verse now. Like
it's a great introduction to that song.
Like I created this whole other thing. Like I had to write, like I remember, and I feel like I ended up writing the song backwards. So like I think, I moved the first verse to the third verse, which we had chosen to be a third verse. And then I think the second thing I ended up writing was the second verse some kind of way. And then like that first verse was so what I wanted to show, which was that I am more lyrical than I've been given an opportunity to. But that's all because of the orchestration that a producer can bring to a track. It's the reason why I love the 2020 experience with Justin Timberlake so much, or why I love Timbaland in general, is because like Timbaland and James Fauntleroy and or 1500 and nothing and all of them have this way that I know I've seen in you and I've seen in all of your stuff where y'all just take this beat, and because you're producing it in a way to where it's like every verse is not the same, but a lot of people don't listen for that. They don't listen for how, the snares come in quicker on this verse, or the snares, disappear on this eighth or whatever the case may be, or how the third verse has built to a crescendo of all of these different sounds and things, bringing life to words. So that's what I think is like so amazing about what it is that you do, what it is you did with Jam, is like the creation process is on a whole nother level.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep that momentum for quite some time, honestly. So,
come in.
Where have we been?
Man, life.
So maybe we can kind of backtrack, and I think the best way for us to kind of explain where we've been is to be like super transparent.
Yeah.
And kind of talk through that and just have that experience and then go from there. I think I can't remember our last show. I can't remember even what time of year it was.
Our last show would have been closer to Thanksgiving because we were talking about the company potluck.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And people bringing, because it was right before I started Gray Area Anime. Because people were like bringing their cat, like people were cooking with their cats on counters. Like the world was a crazy place, man. When we stopped doing this,
they're still doing it.
Jesus. But so, that had happened. And then it was kind of like, hey, you had just started the advice channel and you were like really about to like dive into all of those things fully. And it was like a lot on your plate in terms of editing, trying to get this stuff out, finding formats, marriage, moving from the initial apartment to another place, school district, protesting. Like, listen, fam, it was a whirlwind from the time. Like, it wasn't like we just stopped and like weren't doing anything kind of thing. It's like,
right, just went to bed.
Nah, and then 2020 happened. Like it was 2019. We stopped for a couple months. 2020 starts, and that is what 2020 is. And then, the smoke starts to clear. I'm planning and currently working on my move up there.
Washington State.
Yes, to Washington State. Tacoma, to be specific. And it's just been like, man, it's just been life, basically. For me, especially like this year has been a year. From this year to last year, I lost a lot of people in my family. And if you listen to the podcast, you know how important my family is to me, or have ever listened to the podcast or any podcast I do. So things have just been kind of changing. I was at a new job. I've been at that job for about 2 years next month. And it was just hard. I mean, to be transparent about it, it was hard to kind of do this and have a certain level of fun about it, because we were also trying to compete with the fact that podcasting in general was changing and is changing to a whole nother platform. We were trying to make No Rhyme or Reason the not the cash cow, but the income source. Yeah. And trying to make it an income source with two people who are doing everything, all while working 9 to 5s and, dealing with life on side of that. It just gets difficult, especially when like you're kind of building from, and not even ground zero, because we had been doing, we had done the podcast for 2 years prior. And we're trying to kind of get out of the foundational period, trying to get out of that part where it's like, well, do we have listeners? Are we trying to get listeners? Are we growing? Are we doing things differently? Is the sponsorships taking off or whatever? uh, in my opinion, at least. And, it just kind of got stressful. And to that point of dealing with everything else that we had going on with it, is just you hit that wall of, I don't have time to waste if the investment is not bringing anything back.
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't even a lack of love for it or anything like that. But it was just, in my opinion, it was that. So
the way I think about it is like when you're building a business, and I say you're like, anybody, it's really difficult to be in a space where something you're doing isn't consistently working. And it's not really generating any revenue. It's even more hard when you do have something that is working and generating revenue to focus time on that thing that isn't. So that's where I was, right? Is like generating revenue with the channel, building that up, making sure that Garrett got hired. Like all of those things came about around the same time. And it's just difficult to manage. Our production time, like the amount of time that we spend producing, there's an hour of this, there's an hour of editing afterwards, there's an hour of clips to do. And so for one episode, it may consume like 5 or 6 hours, because then we got to distribute those clips and put them out. And the same workload hasn't changed. The only difference is that there's somebody on staff to help us a little bit more, but we still have the same obligations in some way to the show. What brought me back to it was that there was always something here. There was always something magic here. And that's what I couldn't miss up.
Because it was just like, we're literally, I feel like we were the Simpsons, in that kind of weird way of like, there are so many.
I have to know what this means.
Oh, because there are so many episodes where we predicted something that would happen later on.
Oh, gotcha.
That it was ridiculous. Like you called at the beginning, like it's preliminaries. It's just the beginning of stuff. When you think
the first episode,
man, and he goes, I don't know. I think Trump go win. I'm like, man, get out of here, folks. It's just, and next thing we know, I was like, oh my God. Or, we
for the same reason that I said, right? Like he's going to drum up so much attention that we give it to him.
Yep.
And that's how he's going to.
We talked about voting. We talked about voting and its importance, and voter suppression is going on.
Right. And folks didn't go out and vote during that election. Right. Like,
no, because the lesser of two evil things. And then it's just like, 4 years later, you're like, we must vote.
Right. Now it's time to go up.
Yeah.
Could have avoided this in the beginning.
We talked clearly about, the PS5 and the Xbox stuff coming out, because I was on my bag about knowing like, no, it's about that time. I'm pretty sure they're going to do this around this and blah, 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 blah. To a million different conversations with different artists and things that we've had, different trends that we were in front of in terms of talking about them and knowing that they were coming.
Yeah.
And there's always just this special connection of, again, we don't do this for anybody but the underdog. And that's not to say that that's like some sort of exclusive thing. You can be a millionaire and be an underdog in terms of like, because that's what's a millionaire to a billionaire. Same thing like what's anything to anything else. I lost all of my references there. Not even going to pretend like I knew where to catch up on that. But it's just special because I think that that's something that we've done and continue to do. Like we were, before everybody and their mama wanted to start talking about mental health in a certain way, we was on their bandwagon. or not even on the bandwagon, but on the building of said wagon, because of the conversations you and I would have about me, you, anything that we were going through at that time.
The building wagon.
Always, the building wagon. I wish there was like a song for that, like building wagon. You know, but it's been something that I think is very special about what it is that we do. And the reason we, started doing this in the first place is, I had like the smallest idea of wanting to do a podcast because I saw the potential and the lane of something that I'm like, I can do that. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the things that I listened to. I enjoyed the vibes of the things that I listened to. And because you are the orchestrator of orchestrators, if you tell TJ that you have an idea about something and he sees that you're serious about it, you're going to get everything in the world to get an opportunity to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Heard.
Well, I was going to make one more slide, but I don't know. We can go ahead and kind of wrap this up.
Indubitably. So, now that we are back, please remember that you can follow us at it. Oh, Lord have mercy. I've forgotten half of those things.
Don't follow the people.
Follow us. Follow at Wordplay TJ. Follow at Icarus Gray on Instagram. Check us out. Check out TJ's advice channel. Check me out at Gray Area Anime, which you can all find at wordplaytj.com.
Yep. And be sure to subscribe right here on YouTube. And for more episodes, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Let's see. I'm gonna see if we can get to Amazon Music, some other places, and
Google Podcasts
really,
as well.
Yeah, Google Podcasts, all that stuff. I think Google Podcasts may be going away, but
Jesus, they were here for a second.
Yeah,
but hit the like.
Yeah, you can catch us on all of those platforms, and I don't know. It's been a good episode. We're gonna keep it going and see you next week.
The next one, a 1 and a 2 and a peace.
Peace, y'all.